Steve King's a Republican congressman from Iowa, and he's perhaps one of the most reprehensible men currently in the House of Representatives. He has a strategy for how we can help fight against ISIS. For once, it doesn't involve dropping bombs or sending soldiers overseas, but it does involve spying endlessly without warrants against United States citizens in mosques. So he thinks we need to get the CIA and the FBI into these mosques. That's how we will fight ISIS and stop their recruitment. Here are some quotes from him. He says, ISIS recruiters are almost certainly in the United States. They're all over the world. They're certainly in the United States. They're recruiting fighters for ISIS right out of Minneapolis, out of the Somali enclave, and that's going on in other parts of the country too. He goes on to say, so they have a network that they flow in. And it isn't that all Muslims are a supporter of ISIS. Isn't he merciful? But the network that flows through the mosques is certainly the communication centers. We ought to be looking at this dot to dot, and we ought to have people in those mosques watching to see what's going on. There is no part of the Constitution, no part of the Bill of Rights that Steve King does not think could be culled a little bit. Take out a few of the words, take out a few of the protections. Apparently, Americans just have too many rights, and he thinks we need to roll back a few of them. Remember, Republican, in favor of the Constitution, personal freedom, freedom from the government. You got to be willing to fight against executive power or support it if it allows you to spy on people wearing clothes that you don't wear. So he tries to draw it back to Germany because he's a very smart man who has to make everything about Nazis. I didn't look at the population of Germany at the beginning of the Third Reich, but it's probably in the area of 70 to 80 million is my guess. And out of that, Hitler in a few years built something that costs the lives of roughly 60 million people. The radical Islamists have 1.3 or more billion Muslims to work with. Now, they aren't all supporters, but maybe 10 to 15% of them. But that is a huge population to draw from. First of all, the idea that 10 to 15% of Muslims in the entire world support the most radical Islamist group in the world, that is an insane thing. That seems slanderous to me, especially because that means you're talking about quite a few Americans. But that's what he's going with. Forget freedom, forget the Constitution. There's a threat somewhere in the world, somewhere far away there's a threat. And so today in America, we need to put spies in religious organizations, in houses of worship. We need to spy on American citizens who have never been linked to any terrorist organization, have never had any communication with any terrorist organization, because way over there, thousands of miles away, there's a threat that he's scared of, that maybe someday could threaten us in some tangential way. We need to spy on innocent Americans today. We've been down this road before. We have a quote. This is from Mahdi Bray of the American Muslim Alliance, who says, it's really reprehensible, referring to those comments, red meat rhetoric being thrown out there. No, we don't need spies in mosques. I think we went through that with Hoover, with Dr. Martin Luther King, and that didn't work either. He saw communists behind every sheet. So I don't think there's a need for that. And again, this goes back to my original characterization of this being un-American. Thank you, Mahdi Bray. That is exactly what it is. This is about one of the most un-American things you can say, to say that because there's that threat over there, we need to spy on Americans over here. And by the way, when a right-wing white terrorist organization in America, a militia perhaps, or something like that, tries to shoot up a Jewish community center, or lays an ambush for cops, or tries to blow up a government organization, maybe we should look into which church they went to. And if it turns out that they were Christians, if they loved Jesus, maybe we should put spies in every church in America. Because look, they're supporting terrorist actions, they're blowing up buildings, they're killing innocents, they're killing cops, they're killing American cops. So Steve King, I think that you will be in favor of a bill that I will write and hand to you to put spies in every church in America. I don't think he's going to do that. I think that it's because they're Muslims. I think that despite the fact that we're talking about American citizens, so long as they worship the same God, but they call him a different name as Steve King, they will never be Americans. They will always be outsiders. They will always be under suspicion. This is why you can't put people like this in government, man. They're inherently anti-American. They're against you. They're against your religion. They gotta go.